Hi, Maag. How are you doing, man?
Great
It's good to see you as well, man.
Thank you for taking the time.
Man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, as you know, I'm also a teacher, and one of the things I struggle with is to make my students understand some of the things they would not normally be used to. For instance, the airband. That's something that's like, oh, that's black magic, the airband on the Maag EQ.
Right.
Could you please tell me where it all comes from?
I will.
Yes, please.
Yes. The airband on our EQ, you'd think it was born in the EQ, and I'm going to surprise you, it wasn't.
All right.
Where the airband was born, when I started out, I had a C12, an original C12, and then I had a Boulder preamp,
right,
and I had an LA2A.
That was it.
Unbelievable vocal chain. I learned what open sound and air was like because of that vocal chain.
Right.
So now I went, and my console was lacking being able to bring that out in other microphones that I had. Maybe a U87, for instance. Kind of an edgier sound.
Yeah.
You couldn't open up the high end, especially my ribbon mics I couldn't.
Of course. Yeah.
So what I did is we started to dig, and I had a custom console, so I had to have as good a preamp as I could, like the Boulder, on all of my channels.
Of course.
So I built a new preamp, and in the process, we ended up with some patents based off of a new way of looking at doing the microphone preamp that we built. It's the one that we have now, even.
Correct.
So to get the high end, I wanted to add 10K and see if I could, in the microphone stage, in the low level stage,
low gain stage,
be able to get
to
open up those microphones, those ribbons. So I have to admit, the first attempts were nothing but hiss switches. Man, you'd flip it in, but that's where we learned how to get it without hiss.
Yeah.
And as soon as we did that, then we put it in with multiple bands to be able to change what frequency we lift the air from, and we incorporated that into the microphone preamps. Then when we had the EQ, we had it in 6 bands.
Yeah.
Then we thought, well, let's put that on top of the EQ. So then we ended up with the airband on top of the EQ so that we could open up the sound of the mixes or whatever else we had without the hiss to open up the top end.
Wow, man.
And that's where it came from.
And the other thing.
Sorry, long story.
No,
that's
I mean, that's a true story, guys. So
it is.
From the man itself.
Yeah.
So, and something that's really unique about this EQ, which has fixed frequencies, and then this airband where you can select multiple frequencies.
Exactly.
Indeed. But the fact that no matter what program you run through it, and no matter how much boost or cut you do, the phase is still the same. The program doesn't get shifted or, that kind of fuzzy sound. No, not at all. How did you manage that, man?
Well, that was one thing. That was another patent we ended up with back at that time, to be able to build an EQ that had virtually no phase shift.
It does not.
And so
almost
the algorithm the algorithm to do that allowed that very thing to happen. I didn't think it could ever be the case that we could. But if you take any of these bands on this EQ, 2.5 or the sub, any of them, and you turn it as fast as you can way or the other, there's no, the switch sound when you hear the phase.
Yeah.
There's none. So when what that means is it's going to stay in alignment, and it's just going to change the amplitude up and down exactly in phase where it started from. Right on time. And so to me and to everybody, that's a big deal.
It is.
And that is why this EQ is able to do that and take and put this airband on top of it and have it just take over and just open up that high end.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of Dave Pensato, and he's using your units so much, even on the main stereo program. It's like, wow, what a beauty. Yeah. And now, I mean, I was always seeing his 500 series box and those blue boxes in there, like one next to the other. Yeah. And now I realize that you guys came up with a mastering version of those EQ4 units.
Yeah.
And what's the main difference? And that's the one we're displaying right now.
Yeah, the main difference, first off, because you're laying it out again, it's going to have a little different characteristics automatically, because
power
every
supply is
circuit's
different.
just a little different, just where it is positioned.
Plus how you place the components themselves.
And it happened to be a great layout.
All right.
But the main thing that is different is we have an attenuator, an input attenuator.
Makes a lot of
So
sense.
now, if I'm coming out of Pro Tools, or any of your DAW, a dB and a half or 2 dB too hot, boom, in half dB steps, you've got it right exactly where you need to be to hit the EQ.
It's stepped, so you
stepped.
can recall it quite easily.
Easily. Every one of them are stepped.
That's glorious,
The other thing that we do different on this from the EQ4 is we spend a lot of time zeroing out the potentiometers so that we have them matched. So if this potentiometer and that potentiometer, the value of them when they're set at
the position,
zero,
yeah,
are the same.
So if
that
it's 12 o'clock, it's
both
12
of these
o'clock.
and I turn, they're gonna follow each other. They're gonna track each other. They're more accurate to each other.
Right.
Same thing with every single bandpass in it. And so that's the other thing. And then the rest is just all the same, except it's 18 volt rails. So the headroom is like, I think
it's much,
minus is plus, I'm not sure, 20, I'm not
over
sure.
24,
but 28, 27.
Right. So basically,
it's up there.
Yeah. I mean, of course, one of the trades of the 500 series, which is so nice because it's so mobile.
Nice. It's awesome.
You can take it with you.
Awesome.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And the ability to, in a small format to have a nave, whatever, every sort of palette I want. It's all there. But of course, when I run my program materials through units, through outboard, I want to be able to have extra headroom.
That's right.
And that's where the 500 series is a bit of lacking. And you guys are just fitting that hole in the market right there.
18 volts, boy, and that just opens it up. And the noise floor is down to minus 90 area, 89.3 or something like that.
That's incredible.
That's which is way down on both channels.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to receive one of these units and try it out, man.
Thank you so much. And the power supply's inside it, so you don't have to have a ward on the floor, and I'm still getting those numbers. So that, to me, that's
that's
nice to just have it in it. You carry it, plug it in, and you're golden.
Totally. And then, what else do we have here? I see two Magnum K compressors.
Right. This would be a left and a right now, so one channel, we'll just maybe talk about one channel.
Sure.
So, but I've got it set up as a stereo,
right,
into stereo mode now. And so this is a little more complex because there's a lot of stuff
so
in
bear
this.
in mind with us, this is the real thing.
Sorry, it really is. It has the attenuator again on the input. So if I had it on a 2-bus, I can get, the same thing, gain it back a dB and a half, and I'm matched up feeding it. Then the other thing it has that's different from any of these is it has an input gain as well. They have to be two different circuits so that to keep the integrity where it has to be. That's my feeling very strongly about that personally. And and others may differ, but that's where I'm at.
This is not a color box.
Yeah, I want it to be not messed with when I go to turn one of the input or the attenuation. So I have two separate circuits to get it done correctly.
Right.
So this one, if I were cutting a vocal and I had your Neve hooked up, okay, and I'm cutting the female vocal, I'm going to tell them this story if it's okay.
Absolutely, man.
So I'm cutting the female vocal and I say, sing your loudest place. I go to the, and I run it and she sings it and I set my level so I've got all the head, right to the headroom of the preamp. And then she goes back and then we cut the vocal and she gets excited, boom. We just lost the greatest vocal that she ever sang in her life. And it's happened to every one of us where we go, dang, I wish I'd have just dropped it down a couple of dB on the mic pre. Well, this will allow you to drop it down about 5 dB and pull it back and keep that noise floor, where it's with it, and you can have the headroom to drive it into this compressor.
That's really smart.
That's one of my favorite things when I'm cutting that I use it for. And so that gives you an idea of what that's
totally.
for.
I mean, for you guys, I always tell you set up 2 mics in case in one gain stage down.
Yes, you're not lost. You don't lose it. Because you get in trouble as an engineer. You just lost that, you didn't get that.
Totally. And
this will help that.
This will definitely help it out.
So that's one stage. Then the next section is going to be a compressor, and it's an opto compressor.
Right.
And I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they're online. The numbers of how fast. It's fast though. I think it's 3 milliseconds. Okay. Right, 3 to 5 milliseconds. That's fast. Very fast for an opto. And I know that the release time is up to a second and a half. So
okay, so it can get you anywhere.
Yeah, it gets you anywhere you want to go. the thing that's different about this compressor, this opto, is you'll see that it goes 4 dB of compression. That's like a governor. It's not going to go over 4 dB. So if I were doing the vocal and it were happening, I would take and put it on 4, run the ratio up a bit, and then I would take and compress it. And let me see if I can get this playing so I can see it go here. Let's see if we can get that rolling. For some reason, there we go. Let me get it over here. No,
there we go.
Okay, so now to get it, now you can see, and I'll do just the one on top. If you see the button right here.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
so now I'm doing 4 dB of compression, not anymore. If I go to there, it's still 4 dB of compression.
So what this control actually is doing is not a ratio by itself. No, you got a ratio in here.
Yes.
But that's basically saying, no matter how low I drop the threshold, you cannot go over the 4, the 8, 12, 16 dB of gain reduction.
And it does it on every one. And so that doesn't have a, on the ratio, you notice that there's not a 2 to 1, and there's not a 20 to 1.
Right.
And the reason is because of the way the circuit is, when I'm at 4, I want to use more ratio. So I've got to let my ear say, oh, I hear that. Okay, now I don't hear it. Oh, but I'm getting the compression.
Right.
When I go to 8, which I do a lot on mixes, I'll back this down.
And yeah, and be a little bit more.
You know
subtle.
what I'm saying?
Totally.
And then, now I've got 8 dB of compression without feeling it or hearing it so much. And then the same thing with 12 and 16. It does feed forward and feed back as well. So both places, more aggressive at feed forward, less aggressive in feed back on an opto compressor. Then the other thing it has is a side chain. So right now, what is going through this right now is allowing everything below 220 to fly through, and then the compression is being done with everything above it. So it stops the...
So everybody is always struggling with the mix and the kick and low end, triggering the compressor big time.
That's it.
And this is a really good way because you can select different frequencies. I can see you go from 40, 80, 120, 220.
Exit out the back.
And external as well if
now
you want to run anything.
Put one on the back. If you want a DS, throw an EQ on it and DS.
That's super good, man. That's super nice. So that's basically allowing you to compress without getting that over pumping from the low end, so to speak.
Yep. So that covers the compressor section of it, you know, with the release and the attack and everything, and we all know where that's heading. Then the next section, this is another compressor, and I know it looks pretty simple. There's one button in and one knob. There's a lot more under the hood than just a button and a knob.
Sure it is.
So let me tell you what is in it. I take an entire EQ, the EQ4, just to control that knob, 2.5K. And that's the harsh, edgy area that we have on vocals, on a trumpet that may hit you and hurt your ears, on a guitar that would, or a piano that gets edgy when they dig into the top end of the piano. So 2.5K, this compressor is going to grab and control that. So that's and so right now you can see it's grabbing it. Can you see the blue grabbing that? So now I'll just back it down and then I can determine how much I'm going to do it. That is only 4 dB of compression at 2.5K. So this is a multi-band compressor. If I had a compressor on each one of these bands, each one of them would be doing it. But I chose only to do the one, and this is the one that's going to get it.
And it's a very useful frequency you picked up.
Absolutely.
I was telling you right before, I mean, that's the frequency that's very often annoying on guitars, violin, trumpets, female singers. They're not really so controlled. And with that compressor set up at that specific 2.5K, that's just a thing, a set and forget it.
That's right. And keep in mind this, you remember when we talked about the phase shift on the EQ?
Yeah.
When this, if I were doing this with a regular EQ, the swish should be going on. Well, that isn't what I want to have going on that vocal when this does it. So there's no movement of the phase.
Yeah.
When it compresses 2.5K.
It stays pretty linear. Yeah.
And that's really important.
It is.
And so everything's linear and just stays right intact where it's supposed to be. So two compressors, the input gain and the set, you know, the Magnum K, the K Comp.
Yeah.
Then we go to a next section. Now we'd have to go to the console we're going to put in an EQ2 that is in parallel with the compressed signal that we did here. So right now I'd have to wire in an EQ2, run it to the console, run what comes out of this compressor to the two compressors to the console, and then I've got to sum them at the console. That's what these knobs do, is give me the fader
Okay.
to bring equalization from the original signal right here. So now
Along in parallel with the signal that's been compressed.
It's being compressed. Same time. They're exactly the same time from the same source.
That's great, man.
So now when it hits here, then I've got, I want to control the bottom end more in mixing and on vocals.
Yes.
So now, if I were cutting a vocal, I would kick in probably with the tight band on a female vocal and go up at least to 250, maybe 400 even, and add just a little bit of gain.
Yeah.
With the compressed signal. Then that's in the tight band pass, which gives me all the numbers that are on the tight one on top.
Right.
If I go to the wide band pass, it gives me a whole other set of numbers.
Wow. So I see you guys 2, 4, 6, 8.
Yeah.
Eight different frequency selections that you can make in there.
Yeah, there's like 10 or
plus
so,
the
you
sub.
can even go down to the sub, and there's 2 in the sub as well.
True that.
So it's quite a few selections.
That's a lot of that's a lot of EQ. You can do that.
So on this mix, I'd probably be going at like I think I'd stay tight, and I think I can't read it without my glasses. A great deal. But here's it's 45, right?
45.
45. So that's what I'd be pushing right now on this mix, probably to get that bottom.
Yeah.
Just to thicken up the bottom end on the bass. And then the next one is the air band.
Of course.
And so I'm going to go out to 40,000 cycles because I'm controlling what's happening at 2.5K, and now I'm going to open it up above the sibilance, way above it. So let me explain to you why I may go out at 40 or 30,000 cycles. I know we can't hear anything up there,
right.
But what's up there is as it comes off of the curve, by the time it starts to come down here on the very bottom part of it, you're going to gain from like 10,000 cycles out to 16K.
Totally.
Where you're going to enhance and it's hard to explain what it is. It's like, whoa, the presence, everything just changed.
Yeah.
It's like it's more live. It's alive. I don't know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the usual thing, how to describe sounds. Somebody does it with color, somebody does it with other things. To me, it's just, it brings the intimacy of the performance straight at you.
Yep, and I called it back in the day air, and that was at 10K.
It is.
And that's when it came about, back in that's where the air band came from. And so once I've got that all mixed back in with these knobs that are like faders at your console right here.
Yeah.
I've got what I want, and I've made up the gain that I did over the 8 dB of compression, and then I added EQ here, so I got to back it down a little bit to get the gain corrected.
Right.
Then after I got it corrected, I look at my DAW, and I go, yep, I'm at 0 going back in.
I can print it.
Now I'm going to kick in the limiter, and I'll run this too so I can show you the limit. So now so here's where I was at with it, nothing. I'll kick in the limiter and I'll bring it up where now it is doing a soft limit, and I'm 3 to 5, 6 dB hotter than I could have been back into Pro Tools, and I just trimmed the trees.
But it's nice and even.
Yep.
Right.
And I spent a long time getting this particular
thing right.
Limiter right, this soft limit. It's a soft limit.
All right, it's a soft.
So you can hit it real hard.
And of course, if you hit it really hard, it might go over.
Oh yeah. But you can see, I mean, it's limiting.
Yeah, that's. So basically,
this becomes your threshold for the limiter.
True.
The makeup gain.
Yeah. So basically, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 circuits built into a unit.
Yeah.
Wow, man, you did it again.
Think of how many mic cables you'd have to hook up a stereo pair of them, and then get all your mixes done. And then the artist, after 4 weeks, you have to run other stuff in the studio. So
recall it, change it up.
Okay, so now, oh man, on mix 7, I got to have you do that again. You got to set everything up again.
Honestly, Cliff, you know what I really love about your units?
Thanks.
That's really units for the modern approach. You can definitely take these units with you, and it lets you work so quickly and so nicely without overthinking what I'm doing. Just the fact everything is recallable.
Yep.
Just the fact you have so much technology built into one unit rack, and the fact that these units are phase linear as much as possible within an EQ, of course. Yep. This makes this, I don't know, this is the dream EQ if I have to think of one.
Thank you so much. And I'll tell you the one thing that my goal is for myself.
Yeah.
I like to stay in the music. I don't want to just be back here just tweaking knobs. I want to be able to tweak the knobs to make it sound better,
Yes.
so we all can stay in the session,
I agree.
stay in the music, and concentrate on the feel and the vibe that we're doing. And we as engineers, we help that.
Yeah, totally.
We kind of help guide that to be the case, so they have a great experience in the studio. That matters.
And of course, again, the tools are just the tools, guys.
They're tools.
And it's the guy behind the tools. But you, when you select your tools, well, you should be really thinking twice, because the tools will have an impact on your sessions, you like it or not. And when it's time to purchase for gear, you should think, okay, I like that brand, I like the model, but is that what's gonna really save me on that session or not? This is the kind of gear that really is gonna help you move faster and better, and get better and better at what you do.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Great recording to everybody.
Cheers.
Yep, I love it.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.